Hi, curious people. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Curious People Wanted, a video series by the Barnum Museum in Bridgeport, Connecticut. My name is Adrienne St. Pierre, and I'm the curator of the museum's collections. It's a pleasure to share the stories of our artifacts and documents, and I especially enjoy telling you about items that relate to one another. Today, we'll connect the dots between some photographs of Barnum's last two homes and objects that are in our collection. I'm in the gallery today, and here beside me are several beautiful pieces owned by P.T. Barnum and used in the family homes. These include examples from the silver tea service and porcelain dinner service acquired by Barnum and his first wife Charity when they were in Paris in 1845. These are luxury items originally purchased with a prince's budget, and I mean that literally. Barnum got these at an auction of the estate of a Russian prince who had lived in Paris for many years. Apparently, this wealthy man had no heirs to whom his possessions were left, so his large personal library was auctioned first, and then his household items in a second auction. That's the one Barnum and Charity attended. Now, the Barnums at that time were newly wealthy, Barnum having launched General Tom Thumb on a tour in Europe with great success. And the General's performances in Paris as General Tom Pouce were especially lucrative. I kind of suspect Barnum was more curious than anything else about attending this auction and wanting to see what it was all about. But he also realized he had now both the money and opportunity to purchase items he would never find in America. The quality of the porcelain dinnerware is really exceptional. And these are examples from what is a 30-piece place setting set, making this a very valuable item. Now, the funny story about this is that Barnum bid on things that other people were not so interested in. And why was that? Well, the dinnerware and the samovar tea service feature the Russian prince's crest on all the individual pieces. And according to Barnum, who wrote about attending the auction, other wealthy people didn't want to bid on things that had another family's crest. But he, the American without a family crest, he was happy to acquire these and adopt it for himself. And you can see the crest right here. Well, the exciting thing is that we can see some of these pieces of the silver and china in photographs that we have of the Barnum family homes in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So here we have a view of the dining room in Barnum's last home, that's called Marina. And you can actually see these and some of the other items on this mirrored sideboard. The elaborate samovar is there on a big tray, which we also have. These are just some of the things we have. And what we have here is not the full set, but you can see how they were used in the family home. Now, I'd like to explain the background of the photos that we have because we certainly feel these are treasures of the collection, and I think you will agree. P.T. Barnum had 4 homes in Bridgeport, but none of them remain today, and 2 were destroyed in his lifetime, one by fire and another was taken down. That being the case, that none of these structures exist today, we are especially fortunate to have 2 sets of professional photographs that show us the 3rd and 4th homes in great detail. One set shows Waldemere, which was Barnum's family's 3rd home, and the other set depicts Marina, the 4th home. Both of these homes were located in the area of Bridgeport called Seaside Park, which abuts Long Island Sound. So what we have are large format images, and the majority are interior views, which makes them pretty special. It's unusual to have really good interior photos of homes in the 19th century because more often photographs are taken in a studio or outside. Now, home number 3, Waldemere, was built in 1869 with the hope that moving close to Long Island Sound would improve Charity's continuing poor health. Sea air was believed to be beneficial to invalids. Unfortunately, Charity only survived 4 more years and passed away in November of 1873. Her husband remarried the following year, and his new wife, a young Englishwoman named Nancy Fish, then made Waldemere her home for the next 15 years. And it was undoubtedly Nancy who commissioned the photographs we now have. Both the Waldemere set and the set about Marina, which was built in 1889. It would make sense that she would have wanted to have these photographs to send back to her friends and family in England so they could see her very comfortable lifestyle in America. And in fact, these photographs I'm showing you today were acquired in England about 50 years ago. So we'll look at some of the interior views in a minute, but I'd like to show you first another photograph that's not part of either set, but one that came with them. And this is a great photograph from the late 1880s showing Waldemere and Marina side by side. Waldemere is the sprawling Victorian on the left, and Marina is that more solid and compact home next to it. As you can see, they're so close, it looks as if you could practically touch the walls of both if you were standing between them. But they weren't meant to coexist. And after Marina was completed, Waldemere was taken down. Some of it was reused in other structures. So now let's take a look inside these homes. Maybe you've wondered if the decor in P.T. Barnum's homes was eccentric. Compared to today's home interiors, some would say so, but Victorian tastes were pretty eclectic and interiors were visually complex. Lots of things, lots of textiles, lots of pattern, lots of rich colors. So the Barnum homes were very much in keeping with that aesthetic, and as far as we can see, they didn't include anything that would be considered strange at the time. Did the decor reflect Barnum's taste, or his wife's, or some of both? That's a good question. According to Barnum, Charity cared little for style and was much more interested in their gardens. So that suggests Barnum took the lead on the acquisition of furnishings during their marriage, or certainly in the beginning when they constructed their first home in Bridgeport. Keep in mind, he didn't grow up in a household of ornate furnishings in Bethel, Connecticut. And it seems pretty clear that his tastes were cultivated during the 1840s when he first traveled in Europe and he saw castles and royal palaces and the lavish homes of the aristocracy. This must have led to his affinity for heavily carved furniture, the kind of thing you would see in European palaces and grand homes. And it so happens that various styles of highly ornamental carved furniture were also coming into fashion in America at this time, as well as the interest in exotic things that came from the Middle and Far East. Unlike Charity, Barnum's second wife, Nancy, was interested in style. She liked travel, collecting antiques, and she enjoyed the popular pastimes for women of leisure, which included making decorative items for the home, like painting china and doing needlework. She certainly enjoyed having the luxuries that her husband's wealth could provide. So when we are looking at the Waldemere photos, we are seeing views that Nancy wanted her family to see and the things that were important to her. These photographs probably date to 1875 or 76 when she had been married for a year or two. And here are two views of the sitting room in Waldemere, which was one of Nancy's favorite rooms. I find it interesting that as Barnum's second wife, she did not decide to discard everything Charity had lived with. I think she was sensitive to the importance of these things to her husband. So, for instance, we see on the mantelpiece a pair of vases that had belonged to the Russian prince and were acquired at the auction in 1845. We also see on the wall this portrait of Charity that was done in the 1840s. And this is a painting we have in our collection, although the frame has been changed. Now, my feeling is that Waldemere photographs reveal a mix of Barnum's and Nancy's tastes. And since there are two views of the sitting room, we have quite a bit of information on that room. She wrote on the backs of both of them. So she writes that this room is larger than it seems in the photograph, and it is the highest, prettiest, and coziest room in the house. Facing the fireplace are 2 large windows from ceiling to floor, which look out on the Sound. Now, most of what she describes has to do with the things on the walls and the various statuettes adorning the tables. She notes that below a photograph of Barnum's friend is a tambourine that she herself had painted with a flight of swallows across the summer sky. And then she says next to that is a large oil painting of the first Mrs. Barnum. And then to the left of that, a beautiful crayon likeness of our dear Pauline. Pauline was Barnum's 4th daughter who had sadly recently died, though she was only in her 30s. Underneath that is a panoramic type of view of the family, 3 generations. It was taken in July of 1875 to commemorate Barnum's 65th birthday. We have that photo too. She also mentions the brass candlesticks on the mantle, ones that apparently her parents had given her, and she says they are so much admired. And she describes the humorous picture of owls, which again was something else she had made. There's a lot more, including details of the statuettes and a painting that her husband bought in Germany and an expensive picture of the Nile. We could only wish that these were color, right? But Nancy does at least tell us that the sofa here was upholstered in a rich red tapestry, and the rest of the furniture in a mixed silk fabric in blue and old gold. The rest of the colors we have to fill in with our imagination. So here are some other views of Waldemere, including the drawing room. And that's a little bit more formal than the sitting room. It has a small sofa or settee, which seems to match. And there's a ceramic dog here who shows up in other photos almost as if he was a pet. Now, the second set of photographs of Marina show an advance in photography because they're better quality images. They're richer in tone and contrast, and they don't fade out around the edges. Marina was completed in 1889, and I would guess these photographs were maybe taken early the following year when Nancy had the decor and furnishings all set to her liking. Now, Marina reflected Nancy's taste more than her husband's. He did, after all, build this home for her so she would have a comfortable, modern home when he passed away, he being 40 years her senior. In fact, that turned out to be good timing because he had a stroke that fall of 1890 and died the following spring in 1891. Now, a big difference between these photos and the ones of Waldemere is that the backs of these are solid black. So we don't have any of Nancy's annotations. But the clarity is absolutely excellent, and you can see so much detail, and with all the architectural features, you can kind of match some of the things in pictures like this stained glass window in the stairwell and various curves of the bow fronts, and comparing the interior and exterior views, you get a sense of the layout. So I like to show this one. This is what they call the hall, maybe a little bit of a reception room. And it's got that sort of medieval feeling, the wood panels and the deeply coffered ceiling. And even some of the decorative elements, like on the mantelpiece, there's a knight in armor. And we saw that also in the drawing room in Waldemere. Now, I'd like to point out this Japanese vase here, standing here. You can't see it that well, but that shows up in quite a number of pictures, as does that ceramic dog. And also a banjo seems to have been a favorite piece. These must have been just moved around as the photographs were being taken, and Nancy wanted them in the various pictures. So here in her bedroom, we see the banjo and the dog. And here is, in fact, a portrait of her with the vase and the banjo. Now, it's really fortunate that we actually have these two items in the collection. They kind of came home to us quite a few years apart. We had the vase first and then the banjo. And the banjo was a gift to her. It's engraved with her initials and the date 1888. So it wouldn't appear in any of the Waldemere photos, but definitely was a favorite item in the Marina photos. And the two items together, we would never really have known how they were favorites of hers had we not had this set of photos. So I hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse into the interiors of the Barnum homes. And it's just fun to pick out things that we actually have in the collection, whether they're later or some of those very early pieces like the porcelain and silver. And please know that you can go and take a look at these photographs online in the Barnum Museum's digital collection, which is in the Connecticut Digital Archive. You can zoom in on these photos and look to your heart's delight and do your self-guided tour of the homes at your own pace. So I hope you'll try that and really take in all the details here. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me today, and stay curious, and I'll see you next time on a future episode of Curious People Wanted.